Greetings. If you are like me, you like some of the character designs introduced in Halo 4, 5, and 6, but you don't like the story, and you feel as though they should have stuck with the story that Bungie created. Well, in this what-if scenario, we are going to be remaking Halo 4 from scratch, but in such a way that attempts to follow Bungie's plot as much as possible and introducing the least amount of retcons. So this is what would happen if I had written the story for Halo 4 from scratch. This is Halo 4 Retribution. The first level is called Requiem. Obviously, at the end of Halo 3, Master Chief was floating towards Requiem, so that is where we pick off. He crash lands on the planet, and there he meets the Didact. And no, this guy is not the Didact. This demon walrus bionicle that looks like a cross between Pennywise and the Predator. No, and if you're going to plagiarize my signature move, at least do it right. Master Chief should have been coughing up blood here, but I digress. This is the Didact, because in Halo's original continuity from Bungie, the humans and the Forerunners were related. So in this story, the Didact explains to Master Chief and Cortana why he was locked away. He gives us exposition. He explains that thousands of years ago, the Forerunners were doing research on how to stop the Flood. However, they got desperate and had to resort to the Halo Rings. But just in case the Halo Rings were not as effective as they had hoped, they locked the Didact away in a cryptum for him to later be rediscovered by the humans and reactivated so he can help them continue with their research. So he gives Master Chief his research notes, as well as the Mantle's approach. He gives Master Chief Class 12 armor, so he can be more effective in fighting, and he gives him access to the Warden's Eternal. And he gives Master Chief the job of going back to Earth and finishing the Forerunner research, so they can find a permanent solution to all the Flood in the galaxy. The second level, called Endless, is where we are introduced to a whole new species and we get a lore dump. Just like how in Halo Reach, you had jackals and skirmishers who were two subspecies of the Kigyar, likewise the Sanshayum have two subspecies as well. You have the Endless, which are more athletic and xenophobic, and then you have the Prophets, also known as the Ministers, which are less athletic and want to start an interspecies empire. Now, because the Endless want to eradicate all of the other species that are not Sanshayum, and the Prophets want to preserve the other species but keep them subservient, obviously these are competing goals, and as a result they excommunicated each other, which is why you never find out about them until now. But because the elites have eliminated all of the Prophets, that leaves behind the Endless to start their xenophobic crusade where they try to purge all of the species across the galaxy, especially as revenge for what happened to their brethren, the Prophets. So we go to Installation 05, where we find that Captain Del Rio has taken the Infinity there to lead a research team on some samples of infection forms left behind in the labs on Installation 05, and there they're doing research to find a cure for the Flood. They are very close to it, however there is information that they are missing. They don't get to continue this research at this time because the Endless invade Installation 05, steal the Flood samples, kill Captain Del Rio, and force the Infinity to retreat. The Endless take those Flood samples and they go to the Grunt homeworld, drop a container full of infection forms on the planet, and laugh their asses off while the Grunts are screaming in pain and getting infected. And right before they have time to form a grave mind and escape the planet, the Endless glass the planet just to make sure they clean everything up. They do the exact same thing to the Jackal planet, and next they head to the Brute homeworld of Doisac, where we get to the next level, Banished. In this level, you actually play as Brute, and you're fighting against the invading Endless, and you get a squad of Brutes. And in this particular part, gameplay-wise, I would introduce a Berserk dynamic that allows you to ignore damage for 5 seconds and charge your enemy and do double damage to them, similar to the perk that Orcs get in Skyrim. In this level, Atriox leads the Brutes and fights a brave battle against the Endless. He's able to damage them greatly, however at great cost, because Craig and Escharum sacrificed themselves to blow up some of the Endless ships, which leads us to the next level, Unbound. Things are now starting to turn against the Endless, just like it did for their Prophet brethren, because that Jackal planet accidentally left behind by the Sanshayum, the Endless accidentally let one ship slip through that was flood infested, and it begins to infect all of the remaining Endless and turn them basically into a flood army. This causes the leaders of all of the remaining governments in the galaxy to hold an emergency meeting on how they're going to neutralize this threat. So they devise a plan in which the Swords of Sanghelios will go to the Jackal planet and glass the grave mind that is there and contain the infection. Meanwhile, Earth will be defended by the combined forces of the Mantle's approach, the Infinity, with Captain Lasky now leading it. The Banished will assist the humans. Master Chief will also assist, as well as the Wardens Eternal. They will fight off the infection and the wave of flood their best in an epic space battle, a last stand like the Alamo, except this time there's actually a little bit of hope, because on the ground Dr. Halsey is in the lab trying to devise a way to permanently eradicate the flood, completing the research from Dr. Glassman as well as from the Didact, which leads us to the next level, Rampant. The flood are running rampant on the Earth because a couple of ships have escaped the blockade and gotten through down to Earth. So this is kind of like the level Floodgate all over again, but it's also like the level Package in that as you fight through, you are trying to buy Dr. Halsey time to complete her research so she can hand you the cure. So down in the lab on Earth, Dr. Halsey as well as Dr. Glassman are trying to figure out how to cure the flood, and it finally occurs to them how to defeat the flood. They realize that the mistake that the Forerunners made was treating the flood like a biological infection, when in reality, the flood is more like a computer infection that has a biological component to it. So, in order to neutralize the flood, they start thinking like it's a computer. The Gravemind is essentially a server, and they have plenty of information on how to disable servers. So they create a fragment of Cortana that is packed with as much malware as possible to try to disable the Gravemind. They load this fragment of Cortana down with circular reasoning, as well as buffer overflows, infinite loops, fractals, Windows 8.1, and Halo's Infinite's plot. This package is a deadly combination, which leads to the next level, the Package, where Master Chief as well as the Warden Eternal go to the flood-infested ship and hand the fragment of Cortana over to the flood so that the remaining part of the Gravemind can infect it and try to dig information out of her. Remember, the flood's greatest weakness is their desire for knowledge, which is why in the level Cortana in Halo 3, the flood said, "I will know all that I possess." In the end of Halo 2, the Gravemind was interrogating Cortana, and this thirst for knowledge will be the Flood's downfall, because they upload the infected fragment of Cortana into the Gravemind, and he basically self-destructs, which causes all the other Flood to self-destruct as well, because they've been overridden by as much malware as possible, and they are now no longer functional. There is now peace in the galaxy for the first time ever, leading to the final level, Reclaimers. In this level, we get to see the end of things. The Halo story wraps up in a nice bow. Master Chief gets promoted to be the new Didact, which means he is the guardian of the galaxy. He will lead the research teams and safeguard humanity from the next destruction. And if there is ever a cataclysmic event again, Master Chief will be the one sealed inside of the cryptum to be unleashed later to help the next generation. Cortana gets access to the domain and basically becomes the new Mendicant Bias. The humans gain access to the Janus Key and all of the Forerunner technology, allowing them to upgrade themselves into the Forerunners that they once were. Atriox enjoys a long and peaceful reign over the Banished, and the Banished rule over all of the brutes in the Doisax. The few remaining grunts are allowed to repopulate on Earth in sweatshops as long as they provide cheap labor for the humans. The elites go back to their ancient traditions, but with modern technology, and the Warden Eternal crosses dimensions to slice Kit Fisto in half. And that is how Halo 4 really would have gone if they had consulted me to write it. Let me know what you think in the comments below.